7:07 and happy Friday morning to you. Brian Nehman, Brian Wilson in Washington, D.C. We've got Jake Tapper, Brett Baer coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. We'll get into some politics there. Latest on Jeopardy in D.C. still to come this hour. It is 420 Day. It is International Marijuana Day. We'll get into whether or not it's time to legalize marijuana. I know that George Will has written some interesting columns in the last couple of weeks on that. Governor Gary Johnson joins us now, the former governor of New Mexico, the former Republican presidential candidate, and now likely to be the presidential nominee in the Libertarian Party. Governor Johnson, good to have you back on the program. Thanks for coming on.
Brian, great to be on with you. And, the Libertarian National Convention, first week in May, I hope to be the Libertarian nominee for president and potentially on the debate stage in the general election against Obama, and I'm believing the nominee is going to be Romney.
All right, so make the case, if you would, for why the Libertarian viewpoint is the way that voters should go, as opposed to the traditional two parties, the Democrats and the Republicans.
Well, maybe Libertarians embrace the best of both parties. The notion that Democrats have historically always been better when it comes to civil liberties. Historically, Republicans have always been better when it comes to the checkbook. And don't we really care about both those issues, and have both those parties done so well in either of those categories? Well, outside of Democrats doing pretty well on civil liberties, there seem to be horrible when it comes to balancing the checkbook. And I am talking about politicians now. I'm not talking about the registered rank and file. And then Republicans, you know what? They haven't done very well when it comes to the checkbook of late, and civil liberties, not so well of late. So I think these are the two categories that we really care about. The whole broad brush stroke of most Americans being fiscally conservative and socially tolerant.
Are you done with the Republican Party now? I mean, when you were governor, you were a Republican, and you ran, obviously, for the White House as a Republican before you got out of the race. Are you done with the Republican Party at this point?
I am. I think that, like I say, I think that Libertarians probably embrace the best of both parties, and I think that's where I'm at. I'm with the broad brushstroke philosophically. I'm fiscally conservative, socially tolerant. Okay, so that said, I think Libertarian Party is identifying the solutions to the problems that we have. Balance the federal checkbook. Balance the budget, or we're going to find ourselves with a collapsed government. We're going to find ourselves in the midst of a monetary collapse where our dollars aren't worth anything. And then we really do give a damn, I think, when it comes to our civil liberties, and certainly they've been eroded of late with 9/11, TSA, Homeland Security, the National Defense Authorization Act, which allows detainment of U.S. citizens without being charged.
You mentioned that the debates, and you hope to be on the stage with Barack Obama and presumably Mitt Romney. How can you get on the debate? Do you think you will get on that debate floor? Do you think you'll be, on the podium with those guys?
Well, the pie-in-the-sky scenario is polling at 15% against these guys, and then that gets you a seat at the stage. Right now I'm polling at the 6, 7, 9% range against the two of them. I don't know if it's me that's polling at that level so much as it is a third name, but I am the third name and would be the third name. And then there's also Ron Paul, and the fact that I don't think he's going to win the nomination. I think that for the most part, it's a message similar to Ron Paul: freedom, liberty, and let's do all this in the context of a balanced budget. Where does that message go when Ron Paul comes to an end? Where does that support go? Perhaps it goes to Libertarian nominee, and there's the 15%.
Well, it sure would help you get to 15% if Ron Paul endorsed you. Now, we've had him on the show before, and he has hesitated to say that he would definitely support the Republican nominee. Have you had conversations with Congressman Paul about a possible endorsement?
I have not, but he did ask me for my endorsement in 2008, which I readily gave, and when I dropped out of the Republican process, I dropped out of the Republican nomination rigmarole, I asked everyone that was going to support me to support him. So that support's been unequivocal. I don't know where he goes when he does finally come to an end.
All right, so there's this issue that is very important to many libertarians, and I know you've been on record about it, and you believe it's time to decriminalize the use of marijuana in this country. Is that something that would be a part of your platform if you gain the Libertarian nomination, and do you think that's a win-win for you?
Well, 3 months ago, Gallup came out with a poll that said 50% of Americans now support legalizing marijuana. Well, that number's never been that high before. So really, the issue is that it is at a tipping point. Why is it at 50% right now? Brian, it's because more people are talking about it than ever before, and when this issue gets talked about, it's an issue that does better and better the more people understand the issue. Who gets credit, perhaps, over the last 40 years for bringing about this awareness? Perhaps it's been the Libertarian Party that 40 years ago was established, and 40 years ago we pointed our fingers at the Libertarian Party and said, gee, isn't that the kooky party that's advocating legalizing marijuana? Well, 40 years ago to me it didn't seem so kooky. It made a lot of sense then, and to a lot of people it did. Now that we're to this tipping point, what else is the Libertarian Party saying? So I think right now this is indicative of a lot of other issues, and that is the notion that should it be illegal to smoke marijuana in the confines of your own home, doing no harm to anyone arguably other than yourself? I mean, similar to alcohol. I was just watching the Ken Burns special again a couple of nights ago. When alcohol was illegal, bullets rained the streets. I mean, that was the reason that people were killed. The border violence right now with Mexico, this is a prohibition phenomenon.
Would you end it at marijuana, or would you include other drugs such as cocaine and heroin into that?
Well, I am only advocating legalizing marijuana, but I think when we legalize marijuana in this country, and I think we're going to do that, I think we take giant steps forward when it comes to drug policy by first looking at the drug issue as a health issue rather than a criminal justice issue. We legalize marijuana. Look, I don't think the world's going to end. As a matter of fact, I think it's going to get a lot better when law enforcement can go out and actually enforce real crime, when the courts aren't so clogged. And you know what? If we can let a few people out of jail, 2.3 million people in this country, the majority there on some drug-related category. Look, we have the highest incarceration rate of any country in the world, and I think our drug policies have the most to do with that.
Governor Johnson, it was great to have you on, as always.